This is a continued discussion from the previous episode of Nose to Tail, a podcast where we explore the world of aviation lifecycle solutions, insights, and more. Presented by Jet Midwest.
Talk to us about what your capability looks like at Aerostar. Obviously, customer service, right? You're selling customer service, but you're working on product. And if you have a product that you're just amazing at, what would that product be?
Hydraulic fuses. So a funny story with the 2-8020s and 2-8041s. One of my unicorns to get in the door with was Southwest Airlines, and fought for 17 years knocking on that door. And they're like, no, we're good. I had a good friend, senior vice president of supply chain, kind of took me under his wing and kind of walked me over some of these guys that were there that had kind of said, no, we got our guys in place for this. And they came out with an RFP. These fuses were on there. And so I made the case to him. I was like, I can do these for cheap. I personally can do these. Not that my technicians want me to, but I said, let me get in the door with these and bid some of this other stuff. And I said, this is a no-brainer. I said, you will not lose. You will not regret this. So we went in super low on these fuses. And next thing I know, about a month later, I get an award email saying, congratulations, you won these. I think it upset the apple cart with some of the older folks that have been at Southwest. And they told me that they were going to keep their eye on me. And the minute I fucked up, that contract was done. And to this day, we still average 2,000 of these fuses. Now, mind you, we don't make any money on these.
Yeah.
But we get 2,000 of them a year, so we're very efficient. Chapter 29 stuff, we've recently made some big investment in test equipment. It's going to change the landscape for us going forward. Just about $2 million on this Bauer linear and rotary hydraulic test stand. It's a monster. It took us about 18 months to get it. We're one of very few shops around the world that actually have this. So we're going to get into what I tell everybody, big boy hydraulic pumps. We'll take us to the A350, 787 type pumps. The linear side, we're going to get into some big time flight control actuation. We're looking forward to that. Earlier this year, or late last year, found a company that was selling an IDG stand, because the one we had was serial number 3, manufactured in 1983. And I had one guy, Gene, that knew that stand better than anybody, but that was good for Gene, but nobody else knew how to fix it. So not even the Avtron guys. So any of these cards go out, struggling to find those replacements is almost impossible. And it was on its last leg, and I forgot which MRO show it was. I went to one of the OEMs from test. I talked to him. I said, anybody's selling a used one? And he goes, as a matter of fact, this guy's got one. It probably doesn't have 100 hours on it. Found this guy. We go back and forth, and ended up buying it in January earlier this year. Made a big investment in power gens. So the bigger investment is getting installed this week. There's not going to be a whole lot of shops that can do the A320 Neo IDG. We're going to be one of them. Those are big ticket items. So we're going to have all A320s covered. All 37 new gens covered, 747 covered, 767 covered, C-130 covered, 737 Classic covered on IDGs and CSDs. That's turned into a really good product for us over the last couple of years, like going from analog to fully automated and digital. It's very expensive for one, because the software and these harnesses are not readily available off the shelf. So they almost have to build them, design them to your specific test stand.
Right.
And this is not cheap.
If you're interested, back here behind us, about 20 yards, is an IDG test stand that was working on, would have been RB211, 22B, and JT9 704 IDGs. In case you need to expand back to the 1970s, I've got one. There's a reason I haven't touched it, because I kind of don't want to touch it. It's incorporated into the dang building, but we can go on a tour a little bit later.
Yeah, I'd love to take some pictures.
Maybe it's just a vintage piece that you put in the IDG Hall of Fame test benches. Back from when TWA was here running in the shop here. How fantastic. You guys invest in the capital. You're really jumping into the next new gen, forward thinking into what that is. Did you guys have to expand your space as well? Did you go to a bigger facility or a secondary facility?
Yeah. So back in 2019, we put in a bunch of money, built our own building out at the Aeroplex. Shortly thereafter, we got moved in, started growing the business. Get a call from the airport authority, said, hey, we're just going to let you know this is going to be on the news tomorrow. The head of the airport authority calls me and goes, so I don't want you to get shocked, but here's what's going to happen. We're building a new airport on top of your new building. I was like, you shitting me? I said, we just got situated in here. And so it went on and on. The funding wasn't there. We didn't think it was really going to happen. And last year it started happening. So we're having all these meetings. So part of that whole facade was they have to buy my building from me, even though it's on airport authority property. So I had a dirt lease, I had a mortgage on the building. So they had to make me whole on that. Then they had to relocate me into something that's nicer. And we had a Taj Mahal for a repair station. There was no one out there as nice as ours. So we hem and haw, meeting after meeting. They wouldn't let us be the contractors on the renovations to the other building. I was like, you guys don't know what aircraft power is. I got all these guys. Let me manage this. You give me a month. We'll go do it. We'll try to stay within budget. I know they went way over budget, and we're in a beautiful building now, but it took them all year. And the plan was to basically start the move in October. They were going to give us 90 days. We were going from 24,000 square feet to 55,000.
Wow.
I didn't need 55,000, not yet, but they thought that was a big deal. They also went up $5 more square foot. Because all of a sudden the property's worth that much more now.
Yes, of course.
We get to December. They had a CO on our front building, which is all administrative, which that's great. So we started moving the desk and computers and IT in there in December. So they still had a CO where all my test equipment was going. So they're struggling to get that. So we had this elaborate plan to stage, and we're going to move hydraulics first, get it up and running, minimize downtime, move pneumatics, get it plumbed in, move electromechanical, then move power generation. And then the customers really don't feel the pain. Finally, after the first year, they get to see on the second building, and they start jumping on my ass like, yeah, I know we told you 90 days. Your 90 days is up. I said, I couldn't move anything in here because we didn't have a CO. So we got till the end of January to be out. I was like, I can't physically do this. And they're like, well, what's it going to take? I said, I need manpower, I need forklifts, I need trucks. I mean, there's only 3 blocks.
Right.
But you would have thought I was moving to Miami with all the junk we had acquired over the years. They said, fine, we'll give you all our contractors that are sitting here waiting to tear down your building, and we'll go lease you a bunch of forklifts. So they did that. So that was great. We got everything moved by the end of January. The problem was it was all just sitting in the middle of the floor. The new space is great, finally, but they said, how much is it going to be for your downtime? How long? I was like, 6 weeks maybe. You know, that was my first estimate. If everything could be moved smoothly, it literally was 6 months. So I way underestimated that. And we worked out an arrangement for my downtime, but wasn't nearly enough, compensation for that. You go to plug in power gen, we obviously need aircraft, a ton of power for that. Well, for example, they run 110 where it should have been aircraft power, 400 hertz. And so we had to rewire all that. Then there was a pissing contest over who was responsible for it because electrical engineers, my guys, this, that, and the other, like 10 different revisions of drawings. We finally all got it situated. It didn't come without some pain. VP of Ops, Frank, I think he's 48, or he probably looks 68 now. Dealing all this. I know I've aged, but as much as we told customers that we're down, don't send anything, there's still those guys that shipped the stuff in December. It wasn't pretty. We tried to minimize the pain on their side, and we ended up having to ship a lot of stuff back. So it was a bit of black eye. Some people got it, understood that we were moving. Some people was like, man, you had my home IDG for 6 months. I said, well, I told you in November not to send it. And we had to send it to other shops to try to get them to test it. And it just ended up costing us a lot of money. But we're all in now. I think everything works for the most part. We got a couple of pieces of test equipment weren't being used, but it shows extremely well. We love it. It's a huge campus. We've had to improve our efficiencies with that because we have admin up front in one building, where in the other space, everything was under one roof. So they just go downstairs, call the technician. That's just not a good process anymore. So everything's going to the cloud now. So we can set it there. Guys take a look at it over there, and nobody's walking to the next building for 10 minutes to walk back. So you lost 20 minutes, but it's all the time it's said and done. But no, we're happy in our new routes. It's scary. It's more expensive. We used to have a $4,000 power bills, now 10 to 12, where we had a mortgage before. We have now an exorbitant amount of rent each month. I've talked to some of my friends at some of these Taj Mahals in Miami with these 70 and 80,000 square foot facilities, how much they're paying. I was like, well, we ain't down there. Yeah, it's a lot cheaper up here, but it's a good space. It's taking some getting used to, but it's just the little things you don't think about, where we had one conference room over there. I now have 4. So all those have to have furniture in it, according to my business partners. We had one big break room over there. We now have 5 or 6. All those have to be housed with new furniture. And then all the stuff adds up, as it's just more and more furniture.
Absolutely. When we moved into this facility, we had 1.2 million square feet, and we had 17 people. And we had an LA office that housed, I think, 4 of those 17. So we only had 13 people here, 85,000 square foot per person. I can definitely empathize. We walked through our old office suite earlier, right, which is completely empty, right? We have maybe 2 offices in there that are occupied out of 15. I can definitely understand that space challenge. You've expanded capabilities. You guys are up full steam now. Are you guys on track to be where you were pre-move?
To answer your question, yes, we are. We're probably going to be exactly where we were at the end of last year, which last year, from a financial reporting standpoint, was our best year. Fully recovered from COVID, hit our numbers, spot on. We're there. We're going to end up really damn close to where we were last year at the end of the year, and then on to bigger and better things in 2025.
So a rate fuse, if you have a hydraulic line coming in, there's a rate fuse that helps control the flow to make sure that there's either not too much or too little flow going through the fuse. So it's sort of just an interruption inside of a line that just keeps the flow consistent. Is that a fair way to put it? Somebody once described it as almost like a door in Star Wars movie where it opens and closes. As the flow is too high, it actually compresses the opening And when the flow is too low, it kind of opens the opening and allows more to flow or less to flow.
Correct.
Does that sound about right?
Yes.
Do I get a gold star?
Absolutely. You're hired.
All right. Someone described it to me one time because we used to not take them off the airplanes, not on purpose, but because some of the early on in our teardown career, we didn't have access to some of the digital tools that we do now. We learned what was valuable off the airplane by going and pulling it off. And we'd tear apart these MD-80s and these airplanes, and you were just looking around, well, that looks expensive, and that looks, that's just a little thing on this tube. Yeah, we'll just pull it. And we do the research and we figure out piece by piece. It's much easier now when we have IPC and I got program managers that everything we need off of what's installed on all these newer airplanes. But we didn't even pull them off. And I think Eric Hanvelt, someone said, oh, you guys need to pull that thing. Those are expensive. And he goes, okay. So he pulls one and, oh my gosh, like we need to pull these off all airplanes. And he saw this little thing for like $2,000 or whatever it was at the time. And I'm like, that's amazing, especially when you're selling MD-80 parts. Sure. Not many parts worth $2,000, I don't think, on that airplane at the time. And so we started pulling all of them. We even explored trying to get into that business ourselves, but we could find guys like you who would do it at such a great rate that I didn't need to spend the energy. It would be better off just sending it to you guys and getting that done. You got to think about the hydraulic systems on a 767 and what they're actually functioning and doing. It's pretty amazing.
Oh yeah. I learn something new every day with these guys, and truly amazed at the talent, that we have on our staff. Can sit down there in front of the screen and have an IDG revving up at 30,000 RPMs, screaming, and he's reading all these printouts at good. And he's like, no, that's bad there. Do the printout. So just understanding how to troubleshoot this stuff. But like I said earlier, I'm not allowed to go play with the parts and not allowed shipping and receiving anymore with the phone machine. I locked up that several years ago, but truly blessed to have everything I got, man.
That's fantastic. Well, I'd like to ask all of my folks that join me on the podcast what their favorite aircraft is and why. I think it's always it's good to hear from people, different perspectives. I've had some wonderful answers. So I'm curious, Greg, what's your favorite aircraft and what makes it your favorite?
From the work standpoint, my favorite's been the 757. When we started the company, one of the cargo carriers was doing a 757 passenger to freighter conversion, of which when I was at Fokker, we were supporting a lot of that. And so where Aerostar is now was right across the street from where that conversion was going on. So we touched all 119 for the most part, 757s. And so when we opened our doors, the first part we did was a little reservoir bottle that goes on the doors. And that's what we passed our FAA audit with. So off 757, and I still get that same part today from the same customer. So every single one of them, I think there's 3 per aircraft that they give in, and they have to come off every 3 years. From a career standpoint, 757s would launch my career or learn more about that airplane. Mike and I climbed on that, watching it almost from day one, or aircraft 6 probably, just going over across the street and watching these technicians being suspended in midair with a skill saw, cutting out the section of the airplane to put this cargo door on. So just see all that go and watching the airplane from the tube strip to all the parts coming off to me having field trips with my employees. Like, all right, here's where this pump goes that we work on. Here's where this part goes on. So I learned a lot from it. Those guys, those technicians over there and those engineers, I'd have stupid questions about it. They'd explain it to me. And so they'd be a better person, smart person as far as aviation is concerned. As far as flying, my first international trip in aviation was to Singapore. So I got to sit upstairs on the Northwest 747.
Well, I appreciate everybody listening to the Nose to Tail podcast. Greg, I really appreciate it.
Patrick, man, awesome. You enjoyed that.
I'm excited to see what 2025 brings for you guys. And for all of our listeners out there, please like and subscribe, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you for listening to our podcast, Nose to Tail. Please like and subscribe to our channel. Presented by Jet Midwest.